So recruiting for me really began with Facebook RPM's program, and that's because they always have their application open first. So I waited a week until their application opened and to finish up my resume, and I apply. I had a referral, and I ended up getting an interview. I scheduled my phone screen for about 5 days later so I could prepare for it, and I do my phone screen, and I was so nervous. It was my first interview. I was just super nervous. So the phone screen's about like 15-30 minutes, and mine only lasts like 15 minutes, and it went by really fast, and I talked really fast, and we hang up, and I flipped out. I was like, I messed up, like it wasn't good enough, I'm not going to get the interview, and I was freaking out. And a week goes by, and then I end up getting the interview, luckily, and I scheduled as far back as possible so I have time to prepare. And I really hustled. I was doing 2 to 3 mock interviews every night from the time I got the interview to the time I had it to be prepared. And I do the video interview, and I crushed both of them. I did so well. My interview at the end of my at the end of my execution interview was like, oh, I'm sure you'll get the next interview. This was so much fun. So I really wasn't worried for that. And then I get my on-site interview, and this is my first on-site interview I had in 2 years because I accepted my return offer with ZX Ventures. And I get to my on-site, and it just hits me. It's like, wow, like I'm actually here. I've been preparing this for a month and a half, and I'm ready. And just to kind of put all this perspective into a timeline, my phone interview was in about mid-August. My video interview was in the middle of September, and my on-site was about the beginning of October. So it's about a 2-month process, and I get to the on-site, I get to my execution interview, meet my interviewer, and I just fall apart. I got so nervous. I couldn't speak. I couldn't think. It was awful. It was terrible. It was probably the worst interview I've ever actually had. Worse than when I didn't know what I was doing just because I couldn't vocalize my thoughts. And one of my friends who was an intern at Facebook, when I went back to school, I basically redid the interview for him, and I showed him like everything I did. And about 15, 20 minutes in, he goes, "Philip, stop. This is the point where I think your interviewer realized you had absolutely no idea what you were doing." And it was just terrible. And what the really shame was my product interview next was design a product for Uber. And I was crazy lucky because I had literally just spent an entire week on my Uber case, which was design a product for Uber. And I took my case, which had cited numbers, and wrote it on the board. And it was great. My interviewer loved it, and it was really thought out. It was conversational. It was amazing. And then my behavioral interview, I smashed. It was awesome. So I crushed 2 of my 3, but I bombed my 1 so bad that I knew I wasn't going to get it, because for Facebook RPM, you really needed to do well on all 3 because it's so competitive. And the worst part was I left Facebook's on-site pretty upset. I was really upset. Actually, I was like, I blew it because I knew I wasn't going to get it. All that hard work thrown away in an hour because I couldn't get my thoughts straight. And the worst part was I'm in my Uber going back to my hotel. I'm super upset. And Lyft, my other top choice, another one I thought had the best shot at because it didn't require a CS degree, sends me my rejection email for my case that I spent about 30 hours on, which was probably one of the worst feelings ever. And single-handedly, that was probably one of the worst days of my entire life. Hands down, I was so upset because you put in so much work and so much effort just to get rejected, and no one really teaches you how to deal with rejection. And I just didn't know what to do. I felt incredibly defeated and hopeless. And that was something that I knew I was going to have to come back from, and I just couldn't give up. But that was really the start of my recruiting process, because that was the first 2 months, was just that rejection. And actually with Facebook, I did so well in those 2. They actually sent me an email asking me to come back, and they wanted me to interview again and basically redo that execution interview. And so that was a video interview with one of the people that had the RPM program. And I redid the execution video interview, and it ends after about an hour, and I shut off the computer. And I wasn't that confident I was going to get it. It was good, but it wasn't great. I knew it wasn't going to make up for me bombing that one on site. And one of the issues was it was towards the end of the process. So I was going to get grouped into the last weekend of making decisions. And if there was a kid who crushed all 3 at the on-site, they were going to choose him over me. And that's essentially what happened with Facebook and Lyft. So after that, I started teaching myself technical interviews, and that's where it got interesting. Yeah, so I had a rebound after that really big rejection from those 2 companies. And the next on-site I had coming up was Microsoft. I had done my first round Microsoft interview on campus about middle of September, and the on-site was a really long gap. I didn't have my on-site until November 2nd. And I basically taught myself 2 computer science classes to prepare for that interview. And I had my friends send me all the lecture slides, and I read them probably about 6 times through. And I was just studying incredibly hard because I knew this. I really just wanted to get one offer locked down. I had heard good things about Microsoft's PM program, and that was one of my top choices going it. Like at this point, it was probably one of my top choices. So pretty much this time I tried to take a different approach. With Facebook, I made sure I got 8 hours of sleep. I stopped going out with my friends. I prepared meticulously. But for Microsoft, I tried to care not as much and to take some of the stress off and just relax. And that ended up working because I got to my Microsoft onsite, which is five 1-hour long interviews, and I crushed every single one. I walked out of my Microsoft onsite with a smile on my face because I knew I was going to get it. And I think that's what, like, you want that type of confidence when you leave. And my interview was on a Friday. That Monday, my recruiter called me, gave me my offer, and told me it was the fastest turnaround time he had in 3 years. And that just made me feel awesome. I finally had a PM offer under my belt. I knew I was probably going to take Microsoft because I loved my onsite. Everyone I talked to was awesome. I loved the campus. I loved what they told me about the program. And I just really genuinely liked it. But at the same time, I still had my Intuit interview scheduled the next week. And I wasn't sure if I really wanted to go. I was pretty confident I'd take Microsoft over them. But one of the reasons I decided to go was because I knew if I got it, then I'd be able to use that negotiating with Microsoft. And if even I was able to get like an extra $1,000, then me going to that on-site would pay for itself. And I was lucky enough that I got the Intuit offer, and I was super stoked. I had 2 offers. Now I could compare them. And that was probably one of the best feelings I had. And I really hope that same thing happens for you where you get those options. And my other interviews I had coming up was I had second rounds with Dropbox and Asana, and then I had on-site interviews with Uber, Google, and Indeed, and I canceled all of those because by the time I got Microsoft and Intuit, I was really happy with both of them. Intuit was actually probably one of my top choices going in because one of your rotations in their program you can do in London, which I thought was sick. But I knew I didn't really like the culture at Google. Everyone I'd networked and talked to there about their experience, it just didn't really seem a place that I wanted to be. So I canceled all those on-sites, and I ended up accepting my Microsoft offer, and I negotiated with them and actually increased my offer from them, and I was crazy happy. And I'm really excited to be where I am now. But I really want you guys to have a better experience than I did. I wasn't prepared enough. I should have prepared more. Looking back, I think I could have gotten all of the companies I was rejected from either dumb mistakes that I had made that I now know about. And this course is really going to walk you through all of those and all the things my friends did right to get spots in the Facebook RPM program, the Google APM program, and the Uber APM program. So I really hope you enjoy the rest of this course, and I look forward for you starting the next chapter